Top of the morning to you people. Let's just head right into some more mixing reviews here. First one for today is, again, cryptic names. Let's see what your SoundCloud name says. Lonely Nemo. Okay. Okay, I like the drum mix, but the guitars need a bit more clarity. They are a little bit too muffled into much in the bottom of the mix, and they don't really come through as much. They need a bit more presence, so a bit more of a upper mid-range boost and perhaps also a bit of a volume boost. Okay, overall this is a very good mix. Again, it's just the guitars that need a bit more presence in there. Next one is Dr. Acula meets metal. This is a very good mix. There's a lot of energy in it. I like this one. It's just the low end. There's something a little bit muddy about it. It could be a bit more defined. I think it's the bass guitar that could use a little bit of work down there. Perhaps a touch of more filtering in the very sub range so it doesn't flop around. And perhaps give it a bit more definition in the 100 to 200 hertz range. Wow, this is another strong contender, I'd say. Next one is by Benjamin Müller. This is another really cool mix. Yep, this is a perfectly fine mix. I have nothing to complain about. Next one is by V-Mondejar. Okay, overall there are no problems with this mix, but it sounds a bit weak, like it needs a bit more excitement, a bit more processing. The drums could use a bit more top range, the snare and the kick especially, to give them a bit more crack, make them a bit, to make them cut through the mix a little bit, with a little bit more energy. The guitars could use a bit more distortion and the vocals also a little bit more space. Okay, and here the vocals also sounded a little bit muffled. They also could use a little bit more top range to give them more clarity. I'm sure if you would just put a high shelf boost on the master channel, you'd already be good. And also the low end could be a bit stronger. The bass could come up a little bit and get a bit more compressed in its low end. Yeah, here you notice that the vocals sound a touch too dry. They could use a bit more, some kind of spatial effect. Be it reverb, be it a touch of delay, or just a slap delay. Just something a little bit more. Okay, so as I said, overall there are no problems with this mix. It just could use a bit more excitement, a bit more energy, a bit more pizzazz, a bit more oomph. Next one is by Caleb Gilleland, or just Gilleland. Yeah, you'll see in the description. This is also a very solid mix so far. Yeah, I have nothing really to say about this one. It works perfectly fine. Next one is Konrad from Oakvaleproductions. Overall, a very solid mix again. It's just the vocals could come up a little bit, and I think the bass guitar has a bit too much distortion. In the verses, it comes across as more of a just white noise mesh. Yeah, here you notice in the bass guitar, in the distorted track, there's not a lot of real note definition in that mid-range. It's just too much distorted and just this constant. Yeah, overall a very solid mix again. I already have too many solid mixes that I am still keeping for a second revision. Oh man, I think now we are kind of getting into the area where people took a little bit more time to flesh out their mixes. So now it's getting more and more difficult to really weed out stuff. Next one is by Marvin Abraham. Overall a great mix, but the guitars could use a bit more distortion to give them a bit more edge, and they sound a little bit brittle. I know I said it's more of a hard rock song, but that doesn't mean that you can't just blindly throw a mid-gain tone on there. You still gotta dial it in a way that it works with what the guitars are doing. Also, the overheads and the vocals are a little bit harsh at times in the top range. That's an interesting effect. The toms could use some gating because the low end is also just booming on. Solo needs to come up a little bit. And sometimes the guitars sound like there's no impulse response going on. No cap simulation. Here you notice in the rhythm guitars, they sound very fuzzy and brittle in the top range, as if there was no cap impulse. Yeah, it's weird. Not sure what to make of the guitar tones. It definitely could use a little bit more work, but otherwise the mix as a whole, except for the top range harshness, you may just want to dial it down a little bit. The overheads on these drums actually don't need a top range boost, rather the opposite, because at times they can sound already a little bit too bright. Same goes for vocals, they don't need a lot of work in the top range. But otherwise the rest of the mix, the whole volume balance between the instruments, the frequency balance between the instruments is perfectly fine. So you're definitely on the right track. Next one is by Alexander Liperovski. okay, the mix as a whole is actually pretty good. Good balance going on throughout the whole thing. Personally, I would give the snare a little bit more upper mid-range crack. I notice it has quite a bit of a very high-end boost. You hear that in the rattling and the sizzling of the actual snares. But still, it sounds a bit muffled. It doesn't really cut through in the top range. So you may just want to give it a bit of a boost around, I don't know, 2 to 5K, somewhere in that basic range, to give it a bit more crack, a bit more attack. And also the sub-range of the bass is pretty strong. It still works, of course. But depending on what kind of speakers you're listening on, that sub-range is easily lost. So you may want to try focus it a little bit higher. More, again, this 100 to 200 hertz range is where you get a lot of rumble for the bass. But otherwise, this is working out okay. Next one is by Earl Crawford from Hawaii. Now, what about that? Guitars are monoed. Yeah, overall the mix is good, the frequency balance and volume balance and whatnot, but guitars are monoed, which is a problem. I'm running out of space as I pace back and forth in this blasting machine. Yeah, okay, the drums could use a little bit of work. The kick could come up a bit in volume, and the upper range click could punch through a little bit more. And also the snare sounds a bit spiky. It could use a little bit more body in the lower range. Yeah, and that's about everything I can say about this mix. Last one for today is by Christopher Beattie. The overheads could come up a little bit, and they are not very audible. I mean, they are there, but overheads add a lot of energy to the whole song, and here they don't really do that. So they need to come up a little bit to really make it crack through. and the vocals can come up a little bit as well. But from what I hear of the overheads, it seems there's a lot of compression going on. It could be that it's the compressor on your bus, on your drum bus, because every time the kick hits or the snare hits, the overheads get pumped a bit too much. So you may want to watch out for that. Also, again, toms could use some gating. Okay, overall, it's a good mix. It just needs a few little tweaks and you're good. And that's it again for today. I hope everybody could take away something from this again. And I suppose from here on out, there are going to be more and more good mixes. Oh my goodness. So I did keep already a bunch of mixes that I liked or that had good balance, good sound quality overall. And there are quite a bit of those. Overall 34 so far, and I still have 80 mixes to go. So that's gonna be a little bit tricky, I suppose, to really weed it out and cramp it down to fewer and fewer mixes in one stage after the other. But we will get there when we get there. First of all, I need to go through this first initial phase of weeding out mixes that need more work. Well, okay, I will keep you updated when it comes to that. We still have 8 more videos of this to go first. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Okay, I shall see you next time.